In the United States, 4.5 billion pounds of pesticides are used every single year, with 75% used in large-scale agriculture and 25% used in homes and gardens. The prevalence and widespread use of pesticides has greatly increased our exposure to a variety of chemicals. In today's society, it seems that we have turned a corner that appears on the surface to be leading us in the right direction, but actually may be a downfall. I'm talking about our food, specifically what happens to it before it reaches the shelves of supermarkets worldwide. Farmers around the globe are spraying, dusting, and feeding our crops and animals chemicals that are cooked up in a lab. Now, these chemicals do have benefits. They increase production, they lower the cost of food, and they make farming more efficient. But as with all good things, there is a cost. And in this speech, we'll be talking about specifically how pesticides are detrimental to human health. And we'll talk briefly about three main chemicals that are used and their harms. And then we'll talk about what you can do to improve this situation. According to a report done by CNN, the act of watering the ground after applying a pesticide may seem innocuous, but it was enough to kill 4 children in Texas. The oldest was a high school senior, and the youngest was her little brother, who was 7 years old. The chemical that I'm talking about is aluminum phosphide, and it's arguably the most potent of the ones that we'll be talking about today. Aluminum phosphide is a fumigant used to kill rodents, and it's primarily used in indoor grain and feed storages. Aluminum phosphide is actually an ingredient of 23 products in the United States, and actually all 23 of those are under restricted use due to hazard to humans. It was April of 1993 in the California's Central Valley, said Caroline Cox, writer for the Center for Environmental Health. Routine air monitoring for a common soil fumigant measures concentrations in the air that were almost 900 times the concentration that California's Department for Health Services has previously estimated to cause one cancer in every 100,000 exposed. This chemical is known as 1,3-dichloropropene, and for the rest of the speech, we'll refer to it as 1,3-D. Now, 1,3-D is used on a wide variety of crops, such as fruits, vegetables, nuts, forage grasses for animals, tobacco, fibrous plants, and even nursery plants. Now, some of the hazards of exposure to 1,3-D are liver and kidney dysfunction and even cancer. As one of the world's most heavily applied herbicides, said Sunny Abariku, PhD in biochemistry, atrazine has been the subject of continuous concern due to its potential endocrine and carcinogenic activity. In 1950, atrazine was introduced to the agricultural realm. And since then, it has been widely used around the world. A few of the health concerns with atrazine are similar to 1,3-dichloropropene, which are liver, kidney, and heart failure, but also with atrazine, we have reproductive harms. In a study done by a team of scientists for the National Pesticide Information Center, they found that mothers who lived in areas where more atrazine was used had a greater chance of giving birth to children with birth defects in their head and face than mothers who did not. So now we have all this information. We've seen our pathos. Pesticides do kill and harm people, and we've seen our ethos. The hazards of pesticides have been well documented. But now we have our logos, and we'll be talking about this in reference to what you can do, how this really applies to you. Now, I imagine some of you are probably asking the question or thinking that, he showed us how pesticides affect people who are in close contact with them, but I don't mess with pesticides like that. I'm not close to them, I don't live around them, I don't use them. Well, here's where we get to use our logic. First, we know that pesticides are used to kill living organisms. Second, we know that millions of pounds of pesticides are applied to the products that we consume. And so now we can logically conclude, we can draw the line between these and see that there's no way that we're not ingesting at least some amount of these pesticides. And so now we have this issue, and this brings the question of, if we are ingesting these pesticides, are they doing harm that we cannot see? Many would argue that pesticides are going to cause long-term health effects and diseases. And so now we have this issue, but is there a solution? Is there anything that you can do to protect yourself? And yes, there is. And here are 3 easy to apply tips. The first is basically the golden rule, and it's wash your fruits and vegetables. And you can do this by buying produce wash from your local supermarket. You can find it basically anywhere. Washing your produce just removes a large percentage of that pesticide residue. Second on the list is buy local or organic whenever possible. Essentially, buying local and organic supports those who are not sacrificing quality for quantity. Essentially, you're going to get the best product while enabling them to continue giving you that product. And third and finally, research what foods are more likely to contain a higher level of pesticides. According to pesticidebluebook.com, a few of these are apples and tomatoes, and a few of those less susceptible are avocados, sweet corn, and mushrooms. So now that we have all of this information, we've looked at the detriments of pesticides. We've looked at a few pesticides that are widely used in the United States. And we've also seen what you can do to fix this problem. I want to leave you with this before we close. I challenge you, starting today, to begin to apply these little steps that I've lined out for you here, so that you can improve your health now and thereby your future.